Hello, and welcome to the Drug Discovery World podcast. My name is Giles, and I'm here to take you through another topical and insightful article from Drug Discovery World. Today's episode is an article from our spring 2010 issue, and is part 2 of 2 articles. This one is titled Companion Diagnostics in the Pharmaceutical Industry, Part 2, Business Models. As with our first article, it's worth bearing in mind that this article was from 2010, so some statistics, etc. may have changed slightly. However, the bulk of the content is still extremely relevant to today. The article was written by Dr. Stephen Naylor, founder, president, and chairman of MaiHealth Inc., and Toby Cole, founder of Triad Group, a consulting company in the arena of high-tech startups. There is an emerging consensus that the development of companion diagnostics appears to offer a set of tools to address many of the current problems that pharmaceutical companies must overcome. This, in concert with the advent of personalized medicine and the demise of the therapeutic drug blockbuster model, has necessitated a re-evaluation of the pharmaceutical business model. The outcome of such considerations will be determined, in part, by the changing landscape and influence of the various stakeholders associated with the pharmaceutical sector, including patients and consumers, physicians and healthcare providers, payers and companion diagnostic companies. In this podcast episode, we describe the difference in perceived value that each key stakeholder holds in regards to the pharmaceutical drug versus the companion diagnostic test. We also discuss the perspectives of both the pharmaceutical and companion diagnostic companies as they struggle to find appropriate business models. Such models must serve their individual company needs in terms of product value, as well as support the very necessary collaborative efforts required to co-develop a therapeutic drug in conjunction with a companion diagnostic. The litany of problems that has beset the pharmaceutical sector in the past decade is well documented. Many of these analyses have attempted to identify specific causes leading to such questionable performance metrics, as well as suggest possible solutions. In the latter case, it has involved consideration of better technology investments, build-out of IT, bioinformatics and knowledge management tools, creation of efficient decision-making processes, emerging stakeholders, new global markets, changing dynamics of healthcare delivery services, and actual business models of drug discovery, development, and delivery. While all these issues are important and need to be considered, pharmaceutical companies have been reticent to act across such a broad and diverse array of problems. However, the tidal wave of consumer-driven personalized medicine has forced pharmaceutical companies to reconsider their current business model. There is now a general consensus that the blockbuster model has significant limitations, and that the future must include therapeutic agents that are more closely tailored to specific patient populations. By necessity, this must mean that such drugs are safer, more efficacious, more specific, and less costly to develop. The demands and constraints imposed by such a new model have had the pharmaceutical companies rushing to embrace and adopt companion diagnostics. In our previous episode, we provided an overview of companion diagnostics in the pharmaceutical industry. We discussed the current state of companion diagnostics, as well as introduced the plethora of key stakeholders. We noted that the stakeholders appear to have common goals, but all speak very different languages, and possess different expectations since they are driven by very different goals and needs. This has led to a number of distinct companion diagnostic definitions, and a struggle to adopt a universal business model for the development of companion diagnostics in the pharmaceutical sector. In addition, we noted that the adoption and growth of companion diagnostics in the pharmaceutical sector has been significant in the past several years. This is evidenced by the number of major pharmaceutical companies undertaking deals, as well as the number of companion diagnostic companies now professing to offer services and products in existence. In this episode, we examine the different value propositions held by the major stakeholders, as well as discuss the difficulties of constructing companion diagnostics pharmaceutical company business deals, as well as building and adapting the optimal business model. Companion diagnostic value. Pharmaceutical companies have developed superb infrastructure capabilities in terms of their drug discovery and development efforts. In addition, they are adept at creating third-party outsourcing and joint venture opportunities to facilitate the creation of new therapeutic drugs. However, many pharmaceutical executives have limited experience and understanding of the diagnostic sector, and thus, for them, a unifying business model for discovery and development of a companion diagnostic has been hard to define and determine. This is compounded by the changing nature of the stakeholders and the different expectations and needs of pharmaceutical companies versus companion diagnostic companies. Stakeholders. Historically, pharmaceutical companies have tightly controlled the discovery, development, marketing, and post-marketing surveillance process of their therapeutic drug products. However, as we described in our first episode, with the creation of an informed patient and consumer base, the advent of personalized medicine and a changing healthcare delivery system, numerous other influential stakeholders now exist. Hence, pharmaceutical companies must recognize that these stakeholders hold very different perspectives on the value of companion diagnostics versus the therapeutic drug, and this is highlighted in the following list. 1. Pharmaceutical companies are in the business of selling therapeutic drugs. Thus, they place a premium on the safety and efficacy of the drug and look to maximize a return on their drug discovery and development investment through effective pricing. In the case of companion diagnostics, its usefulness is solely connected to the quality and hence the value of the therapeutic product. 2. Companion diagnostic companies are responsible for discovering, validating, and commercializing the companion diagnostic product. They also provide companion diagnostics to a pharmaceutical company's partner. They look to develop a companion diagnostic with optimized specificity and sensitivity at minimum cost to themselves and maximum price to their client or payer. Obviously, such deals can be constructed in a variety of different ways that includes front-loaded premiums for companion diagnostic development to back-end loaded deals with a generous royalty payment per companion diagnostic test. They have limited business interest in the therapeutic agent. 3. Contract research organization companies, or CRO companies, are primarily responsible for offering a wide range of services to the pharmaceutical industry. Based on their business model, both the therapeutic agent and the companion diagnostic themselves have limited value to the CRO. 4. Companion diagnostic testing laboratory. The cost, reliability, and reimbursement of the companion diagnostic test accrue considerable value, whereas there is obviously no value in the therapeutic agent to the testing laboratory. 5. Physician or healthcare provider. The safety and efficacy of the therapeutic drug and the specificity and sensitivity of the companion diagnostic are of critical value to the physician as they look to optimize treatment and disease management of their patients. The costs and pricing of both the drug and the companion diagnostic are of limited interest to the physician. 6. The patient or consumer. The value of both the drug and its companion diagnostic are of value only in terms of disease management and decision making. In addition, the cost or price is important only in the context of the reimbursement process. 7. The payer. The cost and price of both the drug and companion diagnostic are of primary importance to the payer. In addition, they are looking for the most cost-effective treatment and are increasingly using comparative effectiveness analysis to make determinations. 8. Regulatory authorities. The performance characteristics of both the drug and companion diagnostic are the main focus of the regulatory agencies. All the different stakeholders perceive different value propositions of the therapeutic agent versus the companion diagnostic. In some cases, those interests may be radically divergent, as in the case of the cost or price of the companion diagnostic test. The companion diagnostic manufacturer, as well as the laboratory testing facility, would prefer to realize a high margin on the price charged to the end user or payer, whereas the patient would obviously prefer to pay no charge for such information content. Clearly, the value to the patient who needs a cheap or free marker is in the clinical information to help him or her better manage disease. This is in stark contrast to the companion diagnostic company who has expended considerable financial assets to produce a clinically relevant biomarker and is looking to recoup those sunken costs and build a successful business. To further compound matters, the pharmaceutical companies have no experience in marker or diagnostic discovery and development, and are unsure as to the process and cost of validation and commercialization. Thus, they are uncertain as to the monetary value of a companion diagnostic. Clearly, financial gains for the pharmaceutical industry are potentially enormous, and thus individual companies have a self-interest in ensuring that they are set up a combined drug discovery and development and companion diagnostic process that is both efficient, cost-effective, as well as a sustainable business model. The question that continues to trouble the pharmaceutical companies is how to adequately value the companion diagnostic from a monetary perspective, as well as adequately control the process of companion diagnostic development and validation as it pertains to the drug product. Companion Diagnostic Company Perspective. Patrick Darlin, while CEO of Dako, argued that a companion diagnostic helps to provide the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. This is a very similar sentiment expressed by Lauber and Averbuch from Bristol Myers Squibb. While BMS and Dako have signed a partnership agreement, it is reflective of the broader fact that pharmaceutical companies and companion diagnostic companies both agree in terms of what a companion diagnostic might provide to the drug discovery and development process, and ultimately the patient and consumer. Darlin and other companion diagnostic companies have argued that their products provide significant value in the form of 1. Enabling targeted therapy by identifying potential responders to a specific drug. 2. Facilitates differential diagnosis or identification of patient subsets. 3. Identifies patients at risk for adverse events. 4. Serves as an adjunct tool for monitoring response to therapy. 5. May aid in clinical trial design and reduce clinical trial costs. 6. Permits data mining and re-evaluation of previously studied drugs. The perceived advantages defined by the companion diagnostic companies and the pharmaceutical companies are striking in their similarity. However, there is less clarity and agreement on the monetary value of the companion diagnostic when applied to the drug discovery and development process and patient and consumer outcomes. In part, this is due to the considerable difficulties of developing and commercializing diagnostics which are poorly understood. This process is fraught with complexity at a number of different levels. Initially, you must plan for the clinical indication and ensure that the specificity and sensitivity requirements are in accord with whether you are developing a screening, staging, diagnostic, prognostic, or predictive marker. The stability of the marker and facile or complex nature of the analytical technology platform used to perform the analysis must also be considered and planned. More recently, there has been much debate about the value of a single marker or a multi-analyte approach. Other issues to be considered include market size based on end-user profile and the clinical indication, as well as the regulatory approach to be taken. Once the initial discovery phase is completed, a time-consuming and costly validation process has to occur. You must consider levels of evidence, including patient accessibility, as well as sample collection, storage, and analysis. In addition, validation must occur in 2 independent patient populations of sufficient size, and you must demonstrate clinical validity and utility in terms of specificity, sensitivity, as well as positive and negative predictive value. Assuming that the validation study was positive, it is then necessary to navigate the turbid waters of the regulatory and commercialization processes. Unlike the therapeutic drug process, regulation and commercialization in the diagnostic sector are still maturing. For example, a diagnostic can be CLIA compliant, often referred to as homebrew, or an FDA compliant product. In the latter case, this is achieved via either a 510(k) or PMA route. Finally, the diagnostic must satisfy certain criteria for clinical adoption. This includes peer-reviewed publications demonstrating clinical utility, advocacy by key opinion leaders, inclusion in treatment guidelines by oversight groups, and inclusion by payers into acceptable technologies so that reimbursement can occur. This complex, time-consuming process is fraught with shifting regulatory oversight and ill-defined validation and commercial acceptance criteria. As might be predicted, the economic cost of such development and commercialization is significant. In the specific case of a companion diagnostic, Stephen Little, previously the VP of Personalized Healthcare at Qiagen, has pointed out that demonstrating clinical utility requires a clinical trial of both the drug and the diagnostic. In the case of a phase 3 clinical trial for a cancer compound, it is widely known that such costs can exceed $100 million. However, a standalone clinical trial for a companion diagnostic can exceed $20 million. In addition, using typical reimbursement prices such as a cancer companion diagnostic could command between $20 and $50 million per year. This creates a dilemma for companion diagnostic companies. On the one hand, many cannot do their own companion diagnostic development because of the prohibitive cost of the clinical trial. However, the most likely partner, a pharmaceutical company, has an underappreciation of the real value of the companion diagnostic. Thus, a number of different business models are now being developed and used to address this conundrum for the companion diagnostic companies, as well as taking into account the myriad concerns of the pharmaceutical companies. Business models. There is convergence of agreement by the pharmaceutical and companion diagnostic companies on the potential usefulness of a companion diagnostic in the development and launch of a therapeutic drug. However, as noted above, there is a divergence of opinion on the actual value of the companion diagnostic in the process. As a consequence of this disparity, the evolving business models of companion diagnostic companies must consider factors that are significantly different from pharmaceutical companies, and the two different approaches are discussed in the following section. First, the companion diagnostic company business model. Many companion diagnostic companies are either early stage or small market cap entities. As such, they are resource restricted and must be particularly sensitized to the needs of other stakeholders in their business model development. As a consequence, the need to demonstrate clinical utility linked to a specific drug means that diagnostic companies cannot normally develop their own companion diagnostics. They must of necessity be reliant on the very customer they are trying to sell their products, and must be attuned to the specific needs of the pharmaceutical company. This means that custom-designed companion diagnostics must be produced that can meet regulatory approval and result in global sales of the therapeutic agent. In order to ensure that a successful companion diagnostic is produced and provided to the pharmaceutical client, a number of criteria must be met. 1. Clinical. Validation and utility must be demonstrated. 2. Technical. Assay must be reliable, robust, meet the specificity and sensitivity criteria, and be compatible with diagnostic testing laboratory operations. 3. Regulatory. Approval needed for the drug, companion diagnostic, and in some countries, the analytical instrument on which the test is performed. 4. Availability. The companion diagnostic must match the distribution of the drug in the global marketplace. 5. Reimbursement. Who actually will pay for the companion diagnostic test and how much? 6. Legal. Are all the technology and reagent licenses in place? 7. Commercial. Different models are needed depending on pharmaceutical company involvement. One of the most formidable barriers to convincing the pharmaceutical client that the companion diagnostic has value is to demonstrate clinical utility. Companion diagnostic companies have taken different approaches to this problem, and hence have developed different business models to accommodate such an important factor in building key relationships with pharmaceutical clients. Little has described the most common business models, and they are influenced by numerous factors including development timeframes and access to capital. One approach is for the companion diagnostic company to license IP on an assay and create a sufficient revenue stream in order for them to pay for the discovery and development of the companion diagnostic, and this is referred to as the standalone option. The less costly approach is to partner with the pharmaceutical company or companies and share the costs. A one-stop shop approach is for the companion diagnostic company to integrate the drug and companion diagnostic delivery. Finally, a more risk-laden shortcut approach is to introduce a test based on preliminary data prior to a more rigorous demonstration of the clinical utility of the companion diagnostic. The standalone, partnership, one-stop shop, and shortcut approach have been adopted by companion diagnostic companies in one form or another as equitable business models. Current companion diagnostic company business models are for the most part driven by the needs of the pharmaceutical company client. Hence, the partnership model is emerging as a favored model since it helps mitigate risk and reduce upfront companion diagnostic costs. However, it is important for companion diagnostic companies to recognize that certain criteria need to be considered when selecting a pharmaceutical company as a partner of choice. These criteria include: 1. What are the current and future aspirations of the companion diagnostic company, as well as assess synergies and needs since the pharmaceutical company will own the drug product. 2. What is the potential for follow-on products with the partner? 3. The expertise in development and commercialization of drug and companion diagnostic products are essential. 4. How will decisions be made regarding test format, scoring, methods, validation, complete control of clinical results, and commercialization strategy, including coordination of activities? 5. Will the companion diagnostic company business model and risk-sharing strategies fit with the potential partner? In addition, Ferrara has noted that companion diagnostic companies are very cognizant of the importance of pharmaceutical companies and are deploying two different time-dependent business approaches that impact clinical development and market risk. The long-term opportunity is in the co-development of the companion diagnostic and the therapeutic drug, with a subsequent co-launch of the two products. This approach affords the opportunity of an optimal outcome since the clinical trials for a drug and companion diagnostic can be co-designed in tandem at the outset, and this is the partnership model. The problem with this model for the companion diagnostic companies is that the drug may not ultimately clear clinical trials, and thus the companion diagnostic would not make it to market. A more near-term, less risky approach is the development of a companion diagnostic linked to a currently used drug therapy. Such a companion diagnostic will identify, for example, optimal responders to the drug and could be reimbursed by the payer. However, such an approach would necessitate adequate clinical data in the form of validation and an efficient commercialization plan. In either model, there is still significant risk and cost developed with the development and use of the companion diagnostic, even when considering the needs of the pharmaceutical company. Now on to pharmaceutical company companion diagnostic business models. There are numerous factors that individual pharmaceutical companies must make when considering the incorporation of a companion diagnostic into the development and launch of a therapeutic drug. A primary factor is defining the role of the companion diagnostic in the drug development and post-launch surveillance for such matters as patient stratification, identify responder and non-responder, and develop new indications for therapeutic agents. In addition, the companion diagnostic must not add a prohibitive cost to the payer, such that it becomes a barrier to the actual therapeutic drug use. Also, the companion diagnostic test needs to be readily available, analytically and clinically validated, and approved in all global drug markets. Such stringent requirements by pharmaceutical companies must also be weighed against the risks, benefits, priorities, development costs, business terms, regulatory and market considerations of the companion diagnostic itself. In the ideal situation for the pharmaceutical company, the companion diagnostic is tied to the development of the drug indication. In such a case, Lauber has laid out the generic considerations that each pharmaceutical company must ponder in the development of an appropriate business model, and these include: 1. The internal companion diagnostic development or partner. This necessitates consideration of companion diagnostic discovery and assay development, companion diagnostic analytical and clinical validation, manufacturing scale-up, registration strategy and plan, reimbursement strategy, legal or IP due diligence, and marketing strategy and plan. 2. Alignment of partners with different business models. This requires consideration of the fact that the companion diagnostic and drug have different value considerations. Assuming that a partner in the form of a companion diagnostic company is preferred, then Lauber also points out that the pharmaceutical company must also: first, assess needs and priorities before seeking a best fit partner. Since the companion diagnostic company may own the companion diagnostic product, then alignment is critical and communication essential. Second, determine preferred formats or platforms for the current and future companion diagnostic type or types, as well as regulatory considerations, availability, and costs. Third, consider how decisions will be made regarding test format, scoring, methods, validation, control of clinical results, commercialization strategy, including coordination of activities, joint or sole. And fourth, consider what are the potential partners' business models or risk-sharing strategies and competing products. Lauber has described the complex decision-making process for the pharmaceutical company on whether to partner or undertake in-house companion diagnostic development efforts. In addition, there are several other critical factors to consider. For example, the creation of development timeline for co-development of a companion diagnostic and drug is a difficult and interwoven process. Several initiatives from the US FDA, including the Drug Diagnostic Co-Development Concept Paper and the Critical Path Initiative, seek to promote companion diagnostic usage in an attempt to speed the development process and create safer compounds. However, as Meltzer and Johnson have noted, the co-development concept paper provides a framework for combination product submissions, but lacks a sustainable business model to account for the differences in timing between clinical development studies and diagnostic device trials. In addition, another significant issue is the language in the drug label, since this could be a point of conflict between the companion diagnostic and pharmaceutical company. In the USA, the FDA decides on final language, and the companion diagnostic can be described as either required, recommended, or for information only. Clearly, the companion diagnostic company would prefer the strongest recommendation for the companion diagnostic use. However, the pharmaceutical company might see that it violates therapeutic drug ease of use by the patient or consumer. Finally, the thorny issue of reimbursement continues to bedevil the pharmaceutical companies. Unlike the value-based reimbursement of therapeutic drugs, a companion diagnostic test is usually reimbursed on a cost basis relative to the procedural CPT codes employed for that assay. This makes it difficult for the pharmaceutical company to make an estimate on the ROI based on higher pricing for costs and procedures outside the CPT system, such as royalties, patients, and extensive clinical trials. Meltzer and Johnson have argued that the reimbursement system, in effect, does not adequately compensate the companion diagnostic assay, and we've previously discussed this issue in this episode. At present, at least 4 different pharmaceutical business models have emerged to take into account the complexities and difficulties of co-developing a drug with a companion diagnostic. And these include 1. Partnership or licensing model. Collaborate with a companion diagnostic company or companies to bring in a defined companion diagnostic assay. This model is practiced by companies such as AstraZeneca and Bristol Myers Squibb. For example, the DXS-BMS agreement in September 2009. 2. The buy-in model. The pharmaceutical company actually acquires a diagnostic or companion diagnostic company. For example, Solvay's acquisition of InnoGenetics in 2008. 3. The in-house model. Develop in-house capability and expertise to develop the companion diagnostic assay. This necessitates the fact that in-house knowledge and experience of diagnostic discovery and development is available. Companies such as Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, and Roche, which already have both therapeutic drug and diagnostic development expertise, practice this model. In the latter case, it is noteworthy that they are also listed as 3 of the top 5 diagnostics companies. 4. The hybrid model. Collaborate with tool companies to bring in diagnostic expertise, but actually develop an in-house companion diagnostic development capability. Novartis are actually taking this approach to companion diagnostic development. The pharmaceutical companies continue to grapple with their business models to accommodate the co-development of a companion diagnostic with their therapeutic drugs. They are cognizant of the usefulness of companion diagnostics in the drug discovery and development process and post-market launch, but they continue to struggle on how to monetize the value of the companion diagnostic itself. This is a rapidly evolving situation, as the regulatory authorities begin to weigh in with their thoughts and directives. Ultimately, executive management will have to decide on the importance of companion diagnostics to their products and invest resources in a timely, proactive manner. Conclusions. The growth of the companion diagnostic sector has been significant in the past several years. This is evidenced by the number of major pharmaceutical companies undertaking deals, as well as the number of companion diagnostics companies. There appears to be widespread acceptance of the potential usefulness of companion diagnostics. Based on the current optimism, it is possible that companion diagnostics afford part of the panacea needed to produce cheaper, safer, more efficacious drugs. In part, this is fueled by the common goals of the pharmaceutical and companion diagnostics companies, in recognizing the usefulness of companion diagnostic assays in the drug discovery and development process. Numerous business models are evolving for both the companion diagnostic and pharmaceutical companies as they seek to address the varied issues raised above. Ultimately, the regulatory and reimbursement issues will be delineated by the regulatory authorities and the payers respectively, and this will have a dramatic impact on any future business model development for both the companion diagnostics and pharmaceutical companies. Meltzer and Johnson have suggested that it is likely that the successful models will require the cooperation and the coordination of a diverse array of companies to navigate the evolving regulatory and reimbursement environments. Part of this will also include devising ways of sharing the economic rents of success and the risks and costs associated with development, which in many cases will be a moving target. At present, we will continue to watch the fascinating growth of this important new diagnostic application arena. This article was written by Dr. Stephen Naylor, founder, president and chairman of MaiHealth Inc, a molecular bioprofile diagnostics company in the health and wellness sector. It was also written by Toby Cole, who is founder of Triad Group, a consulting company in the arena of high-tech startups, whose expertise resides in company startups, mergers and acquisitions, and investment banking. If you've enjoyed this episode and want more from DDW, then you can subscribe to the journal and get the latest issues delivered to you via post or electronically, completely free of charge. Just head to ddw-online.com and you can subscribe there, as well as read further articles and view PDFs of past articles in our PDF archive. If you've enjoyed the podcast and found it useful, then please leave us a review, as we'd love to get your feedback. As we're quite a new podcast, your reviews and feedback really do help us and mean a lot. So thanks for listening, and we hope to see you in our next episode.